The real face of money. The money in your bank doesn't actually exist. Now I'm going to tell you something that might sound strange. The money in your bank account doesn't actually exist. This is not a metaphor or a conspiracy theory. It's literally true. If everyone went to their bank tomorrow and said, "I want to withdraw my money in cash," the system would collapse. Why? Because banks don't have that much cash on hand. This isn't a mistake. It's how the system was designed to work. It's called fractional reserve banking. In short, today's banking system runs on a bit of financial magic. How it all started. Long ago, people measured their wealth in gold and silver, but carrying gold around was inconvenient. So they began leaving it with goldsmiths, who would store it in their vaults. In return, the goldsmiths issued paper receipts. Bring this paper and you can collect your gold. Over time, those papers started being used in trade. They became money because they were easier to carry than gold. Then the goldsmiths noticed something. Not everyone came to reclaim their gold at the same time. So they thought, what if we issue a few extra receipts and lend them out with interest? There was no gold to back those papers, but the papers circulated as if there was, and thus they made money out of nothing. That's where the system began. Banks arrive, governments join the game. Eventually, banks adopted this idea, and then governments got involved too. In 1694, the Bank of England was founded to lend money to the king. It loaned out more money than it actually held, and the debt was repaid through taxes collected from the public. America copied the same model later on. Banks created more and more money through lending. But sometimes when people got scared and ran to withdraw their money asking, "Where's my cash?" banks collapsed. And what did governments do instead of fixing the system? They said, "Don't worry, we've got the bank's backs." In other words, they protected the illusion. The modern system. Where does money come from? Let's say you deposit $200 into your bank account. You think the bank keeps your $200, right? Wrong. The bank only holds a small fraction, historically around 10%, $20. The remaining $180 gets loaned out to someone else. That person spends it, and it ends up in another bank, which again keeps 10% and lends out the rest. This cycle continues, and your original $200 turns into $1,500 to $2,000 worth of loans circulating in the system. But in reality, there is still only $200 in actual money. The rest is debt, and that debt must be repaid with interest. So the system depends on ever-growing debt to survive. Bad news. Banks no longer need to hold any reserves. Since 2020, U.S. banks are allowed to keep zero reserves. That means they are not required to hold your deposit in cash at all. So can the bank just lend endlessly, you might ask? Not exactly. That's where the Basel Accords come in. Financial regulators in Switzerland set rules. Banks can't take certain risks unless they have enough capital and liquidity to cover short-term needs. But remember this: banks create loans first and worry about balancing the books later. Money is created when you take out a loan. The game is fake, but the consequences are real. This system has three unavoidable outcomes. Inflation. The more money is created, the less each unit is worth. Prices rise not just from supply and demand, but because money itself is being diluted. Perpetual debt. Every dollar in circulation is born as a debt. Since loans must be repaid with interest, the system can only survive if new debts are constantly created. The rich get richer. Banks earn interest on money they never truly had. Governments spend without raising taxes. The wealthy invest in assets, land, gold, stocks, that outpace inflation while wages lose purchasing power. Major crises, the same story, repeating 1929. Great Depression, 2008 mortgage crisis, it's always the same script. Too much credit, bubble forms, people can't repay, panic spreads, confidence collapses, the system crashes. And what happens next? Central banks print millions or even trillions to bail out the system, because if the system fails, the economy stops, and no politician can afford that. What about the rest of the world? In the US, reserve requirements are zero. Europe, the UK, Canada, and Australia work under the same principles, following the Basel rules. Developing countries like China or India still maintain some reserve ratios, but even there, Basel standards apply. So no matter where you are, money today is not backed by physical reserves, only by regulations on paper. What if everyone paid off their debt? Here's the fragile truth. If everyone paid off their debts and no one borrowed, again, the money supply would vanish. The economy would freeze. The system needs you to borrow. You are both the fuel and the collateral. What can you do? Money does not equal wealth. Real wealth is knowledge, skill, land, production, and tangible assets like gold. Debt traps you. Borrow only with awareness, or aim to live debt-free. Inflation is built into the system. Don't just hold money. Preserve its value through smart investing and tangible assets. The exit: financial freedom. Will this system collapse? Maybe. Maybe not. But it's not changing anytime soon. Your mission is to step outside it. Don't put blind faith in the numbers on your bank screen. Protect yourself with real assets. Money is a tool, not the goal. Build your own economy. Grow your knowledge. Create your own security. With your own hands.